Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. Today we're going to be talking about some characters in the Bleach series where they started off kind of relevant and cool and then they just kind of got dropped off halfway through. This happens a few times in the series, but today specifically we're going to be talking about the Urahara shop kids, Ururu Sumigiya and Jinta Hanakari, batting up next for the Major League Ball. It's going to be crazy. Okay, so these kids were working at the Urahara shop basically as just they're the ones that actually kind of manage the shop because Urahara, it is a candy store. I would like to have seen more, like Urahara in the position of shopkeeper, because the only people that ever usually go there are Ichigo or Rukia or Ichigo's friends. Like, we never see, like, neighborhood kids going into the store being like, I want a Hershey bar, and Urahara's like, oh, sure, fine, here you go. We don't get to see that all too often, but they're employees there, and they're usually the ones that are doing, like, more of the menial tasks, like stocking the shelves and, like, sweeping out in front of the store and shit like that. I'll be honest with you, when I first saw these kids, I just assumed they were just normal kids from the neighborhood that were working for Urahara. I didn't really assume necessarily that they knew a lot about him. Then again, back then, Urahara was a very mysterious figure, so we didn't really know about much of him at all. But pretty soon we find out these aren't normal kids. They're actually trained in the art of killing quite well, actually. Jinta utilizes a giant Kanombo bat thing. Jinta's things he wants to be a famous baseball player someday, so he's got super strength and super speed, and he can, apparently do that thing that a lot of characters can do where they can, like, step on the air, utilizing Ryatsu as, like, a platform. And then you have Ururu, who is, like, this meek, shy little girl who just seems innocent and everything, except for the fact she has a giant fucking machine gun cannon blaster thing. It's like Senputsu Bakudo Taiho or something like that. It's pronounced. I forget what it's actually called, though. And it's funny, in the anime, it's just like a normal thing wrapped in cloth. In the manga, it's like talismans that are covering it, like something straight out of Naruto or something. But anyway, yeah, little shy little girl, like, okay, I'm just gonna kill you now, that's fucking cool. And she is pretty wicked strong herself, and she's fast, and her thing is she actually has a thing called massacre mode, or berserker mode, or my favorite translation of this was genocide mode, where she goes fucking batshit crazy and she just dedicates herself to one freaking objective, like eliminate intruder, and just beats the shit out of him until he's senseless, as we saw with Ilfort Grants. That was a pretty epic fight, but that was the last time they got to do pretty much anything. After the Urahara arc, they just kind of, like, dropped off. I mean, there was a few anime fillers where she shows up. Ururu in particular was the tiny devil in the Karakurizer fillers, and Jinta was Karakura Red in the Karakura superhero fillers. But beside from that, there's really, and a few other filler episodes, they're not really around. They show up after the time skip one time. They have shown to grow a little bit in the 17-month time skip. They're now entering, like, high school, or they're in middle school or something. They're about the same age as Ichigo's sisters, like, so, Karin and Yuzo, so they're about maybe, like, 11, 12 years old in the beginning of the story, and, in 13, 14 after the time skip around there. But that's the last time we see them. We see them out front of the Urahara shop when Karin goes there to get some anti-ghost shit, and we just don't see him ever again. And even Kubo himself admitted, like, I think someone sent him in a question once, like, hey, are you ever going to explain what's up with the Urahara kids? Are you going to explain what's up with Ururu and how she's, like, freaking crazy and how she's a little girl, but she goes into this crazy berserker genocide mode? And Kubo was just like, Ururu will remain a mystery. So that's basically Kubo saying that either he never thought of a reason why she would be that awesome, or that it's like, I did think of a reason, but there's just no point in the story for me to bring it up, so I just won't bring it up. But if that was the case, you think he would just answer it, in the question center. He's like, instead he's just like, nope, she will forever remain a mystery. And you're like, alright, so I guess you just are cock-teasing us, or you just didn't want us to know. But anyway, here's gonna be, I came up with a few theories on what they could be, alright, because these obviously are not ordinary kids, alright? So there's a few things. Let's go over what they're definitely not, okay? So we definitely know that they're not Shinigami. For a few reasons. For one thing, that they don't really seem to exhibit any traits of Shinigami outside of just, they're a little bit stronger, they're a little bit faster than normal humans or anything like that, but they haven't displayed the abilities to utilize Sonido, or they can't shoot the Ryatsu. Like, they might have some basic Ryatsu control, like being able to suspend themselves in air, but they don't have the ability to, like, Kido or anything like that. Also, it's very clear that they can age as well, so that kind of throws that out there. They're more like modified humans. They're more like like humans that have like a unique abilities, kind of like Quincy's and the Bounce in the anime. But even then, they're unlike they're unlike Quincy's and they're unlike the Bounce, you know? So that kind of gets thrown out there. They don't utilize any Quincy techniques or anything like that. They can't really do anything too different than a human can. You know, at least the Bounce had like a special ability to drain souls. So I think that's kind of out there, though. No, you want to know exactly what they seem like? Because there is a species in the Bleach series that these two kids remarkably bear similarities to. Mod souls. And that's where I'm going with this. Jinta and Ururu are mod souls to some extent. Now, I have a few different ways that this could go about, but that's pretty much that's what they are. Okay, in one form or another. They might be unlike other mod souls that we've seen in the story, such as Cone, but that's certainly at the base where we're going here. Okay, so first off, let's talk about what mod souls are. Okay, so you have the basically two elements to a living being in the Bleach story. You have the physical body, the shell, and then you have the soul. And what the Soul Society figured out is you can actually make artificial souls and artificial bodies. Okay, so, you know, Ichigo is pure flesh and blood, you know, and then he has the soul, which is his Shinigami form. All right, but then you have characters like Cone. Cone is an artificial soul. He doesn't actually have a physical body. There is no default body for what Cone would actually look like. He is just a soul in pill form. So, you know, Ichigo eats the Gikongon, you know, soul candy. His soul, his Shinigami soul gets knocked out, and then Kone's soul takes over Ichigo's body. You know, Cone has his own unique personalities and everything like that, by which he's a pervert, but he doesn't have his own body. Okay, now Mayuri took this one step further. Mayuri actually combined Gigai artificial body with mod soul technology, artificial souls, or the Gikongon, and he created his own daughter, his own sentient, autonomous being that was capable of aging, capable of developing her own personality, and that was Namuri Nanago. That was Nemu. Okay, so Nemu is artificial in that sense. And she could age as well, so it's not like modified souls can never age. It's just, you know, the way that Mayuri designed her body was to develop and grow. So it is possible there. So that's one of the ways I'm going with this, but let's just say that it's possible that that Jinta and Ururu are like these artificial beings similar to Nemu. Now, obviously, we all know Urahara is a skilled guy. He's more adept at using, you know, science and technology better than Mayuri in some respects. Although, it's funny, because when Mayuri figured out how to create Nemu, and Nemu was capable of evolving, Mayuri thought, like, oh, that was the one advantage I had over Urahara. I beat him, finally. But wouldn't it be interesting if Urahara was dabbling in that same kind of research? If Urahara was figuring out, because Urahara was really into Gigais and Gikongons too. That's what, you know, he was researching that a lot. He developed that Gigai that's untraceable. So maybe, you know, he was on Earth for 100 years in exile. So I think it would make perfect sense for him to be continuing his research, and he ended up doing this kind of the same thing Mayuri ended up doing. Just, he naturally led to that area. You know, developing a fake body and a fake soul, or artificial body and artificial soul, combining them together, and then creating artificial beings, Jinta and Ururu. And Nemu is, you know, she has advanced, you know, physical stats. You know, she's wicked strong and wicked fast, and she can do all this crazy shit, which is very similar to the Urahara kids in that respect. You know, they bear more similar. Their base stats are just boosted, okay? And aside from Ururu's little, you know, genocide mode thing, there really isn't anything super unique about them that would really make you scream like, oh, she's a Shinigami, or oh, she's a Quincy, or she's a Bound, or whatever. It's just, you know, stronger than crazy. And then the weapons themselves, you know, Urahara could have just manufactured them for those, you know, their use. So that's one idea, that these characters are not actually, you know, real kids. They're just, you know, fakes. Now, whether or not they would know about that is another thing. But what I think happened was, you know how Mayuri was kind of a dick to Nemu for a long time? Up until basically right at the end of the story, Mayuri started to see Nemu as an actual daughter and started to treat her a little bit, started to actually be concerned for her well-being. Didn't treat her as just an item or an object. Urahara obviously has a little bit more empathy than Mayuri does. He has a little bit more emotion here. So with that being said, you have Urahara maybe developing sort of a relationship, maybe like a fatherly role, or a guardian role for Ururu and Jinta. And so maybe he was going to do something else with them. Maybe he was developing them for combat, purely for combat, or he was trying to further his research or make them do something else. But then after they started developing their own personalities and they started acting like regular kids, Urahara decided, this is, I'm not going to, whatever intention he had, he's just like, you know what? I just want them to be like normal kids. And the last time we see them after the time skip, they're attending school, they're growing up, they seem to be coming into a little bit on their own. Urahara doesn't seem to be interfering with their lives at all, but they live at the Urahara shop. They live and sleep there, so it's not like they're just kids that have parents somewhere else. So Urahara is, in fact, their father figure, who they look up to, their guardian, so to speak. So I think that's one way of looking at it here. Another way I looked at it of what they could be, and it still goes along with the mod soul thing, it's just a little bit different, and it's kind of dark, but imagine if Ururu and Jinta were actually normal kids. They were orphans, so that would explain why they don't have their parents or nobody they know is around. So they were orphan kids living in Karakura Town, and then they stumbled across the Urahara shop, and Urahara took them in and then experimented on them. And then modified them. Maybe they were near death and he was like, all right, I'm going to modify you, or maybe he just wanted to do something with his technology or something he needed guinea pigs to work on. I don't know. But they were normal kids, just orphans, and then they were modified to what they are now. And still living at the Urahara shop. Urahara still treats them well. He's not abusive towards them or anything. But yeah, those are two ways I thought about this. I've been getting not a lot, but a few messages, people asking me about what's up with these kids. And that really goes, you think about how all the different Gikongon work, all the different artificial souls are. So you have Kon, who is like a pervert, so that's a very kind of unique personality there. But also you had the Gikongon that were used by Toshiro's group. When Toshiro's group came to the world of the living in the Arrancar arc, they had their own set of soul candies that had each different personalities. They weren't really touched upon in the anime so much. There was little side, those little spaces in between. I have one here. So the little spaces in between the manga chapters, where Kubo will draw a little comic or something. That's where the Gikongon personalities were explained. So you have Chappie is the bunny that went inside Rukia, and Chappie is this really energetic, happy person. Hey, how you doing, guys? And then you have other variations of that. The one that went into Toshiro, I know, was a really a stupid one. This guy that mutters off percentages. So Toshiro pops a Gikongon to go fight Xiaolong Kufang, and then his Gikongon was like, I'm gonna go hide in this dumpster. There's a 10% possibility that I won't be found. But it's just meaningless percentages, so he's kind of an idiot. Rangiku's Gikongon was a massive flirt, so she would put it in, and then, there was one filler episode where Rangiku put her Gikongon in, and then she left her body at a coffee shop while she went out to go fight a hollow, and she immediately almost fucked the guy at the coffee shop. That was kind of funny. Yumachika's is a delinquent. Ikaku's is a scaredy cat. Yeah, so they have different personalities is what I'm getting across here, and Jinta and Ururu seem to have kind of unique personalities as well. Jinta is rather boisterous and hot-headed, I'm the best, Jinta Hanakari, and Ururu is very meek and timid and shy, and then she has her modes that she goes into, her fucking genocide mode, which seems like something Nemu would have, defeat, it was almost like she goes into this robotic subroutine that was you are given defend the Urahara shop, defeat the enemy, kill hollows, and that was ingrained in her subconsciously. So whenever she gets injured, when Ichigo injured her in training, or whenever she senses the Arrancar's weird spiritual pressure, that affected her. Whenever she gets that kind of stimuli, it's her brain goes on fucking autopilot, and she's destroy, destroy, destroy. Yeah, so those things kind of seem similar to modified soul technology, artificial soul technology, which of course Urahara would have access to. So basically what it comes down to, either these kids are like Nemu, a similar species to Nemu that were just created by Urahara, but went a different route than Nemu did because Urahara treated them like normal children, so they have a little bit more empathy and they understand the world better, they act like regular kids. Or they were just orphan kids in Karakura Town that Urahara took in and then modified to give them these superhuman abilities. Those are really the only two viable ways I could see this going down. I don't, unless there's some other kind of species, some other kind of, unique subset of humans, like the Quincy's or the Bounce, but I don't think we have to get that involved here. I think the fact that Urahara, who was in R&D division, skilled at the use of Ginkongan and Gigai technology, and that these kids have these similar abilities, I think that's pretty much all you need to know. But yeah, I wish we would have got to see them a little bit more in the story, at least in the Fullbring arc, because they were shown in the Fullbring arc. You could have, I understand, there's a lot of shit going on in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. There's a lot of shit going on. You can't incorporate everybody in there. But you could have had them as part of the team that goes to fight fucking Tsukishima and Ginjo. I mean, you could do something with that. Maybe they've evolved a little bit since the time skip. Or maybe, hey, here's another idea. Maybe Urahara wanted them to stop fighting Hollows. Maybe he's like, I'm sorry for altering you, and just go about your own lives. Maybe that's why they weren't shown in the story. Maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe it was like, don't be fighting Hollows anymore. Ururu, put down the fucking Gatling gun and just go to school. Just be teenagers, be kids, live your lives. And then that's what they did. We don't see him in the final chapter or anything. We don't know what happened to him. But that's what I like to think happened. Maybe Jinta is now, he's playing professional ball, and Ururu is a teacher or something. I don't know, but something going out there. But yeah, that's basically all I have to really say about the Urahara Shop kids. Wish they would have expanded on more, but obviously Kubo didn't want to go that way. Maybe Kubo just I want to draw a little girl that's all meek and shy, but then can beat the shit out of people. Maybe that's just what he wanted to throw in there. And there's a lot of fucking fan fiction with Karin and Jinta, a ridiculous amount. As I was researching this video, I found a ridiculous amount of that, the fan shipping between the two. So I don't see it personally. I'm a Karin Toshiro guy myself, but Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment below what you think about these characters and what you think Kubo was going to try to do with them, if anything. Yeah. Oh yeah. Then you have that emotional scene where Uru got stabbed by Ilfort. And then Jinta try to come and save her. So maybe, are they brother and sister? That could be another thing too I didn't even touch upon. I didn't even consider that, whether they be brother and sister, because I don't think that was ever fucking specified. They have different hair, but it's anime. Who gives a shit? So yeah, I guess they could be related, brother and sister. That would, what? That could actually be a really solid, filler chapter. In the series, at least a side chapter, at least a few panels, these two kids running down Karakura Town in the rain, and then you see Urahara with his umbrella, come with me. That's all you had to do, Kubo, to really answer some questions here, but that's what we didn't get. So what do you think? Comment below, subscribe and like, and all that shit you probably already did already, if you wanted to do that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out.